There's something strangely comforting about the ticking of a clock. It gives the illusion that life is ordered, that moments come in neat packages, seconds, minutes, hours, each one slipping away only after giving way to the next. But what if this rhythm is a deception? What if the very structure we use to measure life is not a reflection of reality, but a cage for it? Albert Einstein once said, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion," and that quote, so elegantly simple, slices through the core of how we experience existence. To truly grasp the weight of that statement is to begin to question everything we think we know about time, not just as a measurement, but as a truth. Imagine a universe where all events, every smile, every heartbreak, every revolution, and collapse exists simultaneously. This idea, called the block universe theory, proposes that time is not a flowing river but a frozen landscape. We're not moving through time, we're simply perceiving it, slice by slice, like flipping through the frames of a film reel. Each moment already exists. The past isn't gone, and the future isn't waiting. They're all just there. Einstein's theory of relativity gave birth to this unsettling vision. In his equations, time and space were not separate entities, but part of the same fabric, space-time, and depending on how fast you move or how close you are to gravity, your experience of time warps, bends, stretches. It ceases to be universal. This realization was not just a scientific revolution, it was a psychological earthquake. Because if time is not universal, then memory and expectation, the anchors of our identity, become slippery. Who are we? If our past is still happening somewhere, if our future already exists, the self, which we imagine as a linear narrative, I was, I am, I will be, becomes fragmented. And this fragmentation is not just theoretical. We feel it in dreams, where we exist in multiple ages at once. In trauma, where the past refuses to stay behind us. In moments of déjà vu, where time folds in on itself, mocking our sense of progression. The human psyche, it turns out, might already be aware that time is not what it seems. While physics was deconstructing time from the outside, Carl Jung was exploring its implosion from within. His work with the unconscious revealed a world where the past and future collide in symbols, myths, and archetypes, ancient patterns that reappear across generations, as if history were echoing itself, not linearly, but cyclically. Jung didn't need to peer through a telescope to witness time's strange behavior. He found it in dreams, in synchronicities, in the mysterious way events connect through meaning rather than causality. Synchronicity was Jung's rebellion against the tyranny of linear time. It described moments where something from the outer world matched something within, not through cause and effect, but through a deeper, almost mythic alignment. You think of someone, and they call you. You dream of an image, and it appears in waking life. These are not just coincidences, he argued. They are reminders that we are embedded in a universe of layered time, where psychological and physical events converge across dimensions we barely understand. To Jung, the psyche was not a closed loop of personal experience. It was an antenna, tuning into patterns that may not follow the clock at all. As our understanding of time unraveled, quantum mechanics added a final blow to our old narratives. In the microscopic world, particles don't follow the predictable dance of cause and effect. Instead, they behave in ways that defy temporal logic, appearing in two places at once, changing the past by being observed in the present, existing in states of probability rather than certainty. In quantum entanglement, two particles can mirror each other instantly, no matter how far apart they are. This instantaneous link suggests a realm beyond time, beyond space, where separation and sequence dissolve. If even the fabric of reality does not obey time as we know it, then why should our lives? And yet, we cling to time. We need it. It is our compass and our storybook, our measure of progress and our escape from chaos. Without time, how do we plan, remember, forgive, grow? The mind may be capable of perceiving time differently, of slipping through it in altered states, but in the material world, we are still tied to it. Or are we? What if even this dependency is a kind of sleepwalking? A collective hypnosis induced by centuries of mechanical thinking, of industrial rhythms, of digital timestamps, controlling our value and identity. The deeper we look into the nature of time, the more it slips away from us. It's not a river, it's a fog. And within that fog are truths that science and myth, physics and psyche are all trying to touch. But to do so, we must first let go of the clock and allow ourselves to be disoriented. Because perhaps time was never meant to make sense in the way we hoped. Perhaps it is not there to be measured, but to be felt, like a presence that folds and unfolds in silence. There are moments in life when reality begins to shimmer, like heat on asphalt, like the flicker of an old film reel. These moments don't follow the ordinary script of cause and effect. They feel suspended, timeless. You step into a room and feel as though you've already been there. You meet a stranger and sense an ancient familiarity. You dream of a symbol only to see it carved into stone days later, in a city you've never visited before. To the rational mind, these are coincidences, dismissed with a shrug. But to Carl Jung, these are doorways, portals, evidence that time does not always move forward. Sometimes it folds inward, revealing a secret architecture beneath the surface of events. Jung's conception of the psyche was not linear. It didn't begin at birth and end at death. It was a deep well that stretched beyond individual memory, tapping into what he called the collective unconscious, a psychic reservoir, containing the symbolic knowledge of the entire human species. And within this vast interior world, time behaves differently. Events are not bound by clocks, but by meaning. Myths and symbols do not evolve from the past. They erupt in the present, seemingly uninvited, bearing the weight of countless generations. When a person dreams of a serpent, they're not just processing a personal fear. They're in dialogue with something ancient, something that has slithered through the stories of every civilization. And in this mythic realm of the psyche, synchronicity plays the role of time traveler. It defies chronology. Imagine a person dreaming of drowning and the next day receiving news that someone close to them died by water. There's no causal link, and yet the timing is too precise, too layered with meaning to be random. Synchronicity, Jung argued, is the psyche's way of communicating with reality, not through cause, but through significance. It connects inner and outer worlds in ways that bypass time altogether. It is the language of myth breaking into the modern mind. In this view, the dream becomes a time machine, not one that takes you physically into the past or future, but one that allows you to experience temporal collapse. Dreams are often non-linear. One moment you're a child, the next you're in an imagined future. You may die and wake up within the same dream. The boundaries of time do not hold, and yet, within that chaos, lies an intelligence. The unconscious doesn't organize time by clocks. It organizes by emotion, by archetype, by unresolved fragments of psyche still seeking integration. In dreams, we may revisit traumas, not to remember, but to relive and reweave them, as if time were a tapestry that could be rewoven in the dark. Jung often emphasized that psychic time can operate independently of physical time. A breakthrough in therapy might resolve decades of suffering in an instant. A powerful symbol might unlock a memory the conscious mind had long buried. In these moments, healing is not a gradual process, but a temporal rupture, the future healing the past. What we consider now becomes porous, permeable, unstable. Time bends at the edge of consciousness, and in doing so, reveals that the psyche is not a passenger of time, but its co-creator. This idea challenges not only the empirical mind, but the entire Western worldview. We've inherited a culture that treats time as a straight road with fixed destinations: birth, youth, work, retirement, death. But Jung's psychology suggests a spiral, not just personally, but historically. Humanity, he believed, repeats patterns, not because we're trapped in them, but because we've yet to fully integrate them. The recurrence of wars, collapses, renaissances, all mirror the individuation journey of the psyche. What happens in the soul also happens in civilization. And just like a dream revisits unresolved images, history replays its own unconscious material, giving us a chance, again and again, to see. To awaken, Jung's interest in alchemy also reveals this temporal layering. He saw the ancient alchemical texts not merely as primitive science, but as symbolic blueprints of psychological transformation. These texts were filled with circular time. The opus, the great work, was not a straight-line process, but a loop of death and rebirth, dissolving and reuniting. The alchemists believed that transformation required a breaking of time, a passage through chaos before the new self could emerge. This mirrored Jung's own process of individuation, the integration of shadow, the confrontation with the unconscious, the symbolic death of the ego, all requiring a surrender of linear time. So what if these internal processes are not metaphors, but real? What if healing is, in a sense, a journey through time, not by machine, but by meaning? When we confront our traumas, we often revisit scenes from decades ago with the wisdom we didn't have back then. The adult returns to rescue the child. The future self steps into the past and rewrites it, not externally, but internally. These inner voyages change how we see our story, and in doing so, they change the very course of our life. The timeline is not broken, it's rewritten from within. In this light, perhaps the most advanced form of time travel is not physical, but psychological. Not a leap through wormholes, but a descent into symbols. Not a conquest of the future, but a reconciliation with the timeless. Jung's legacy invites us to see time not as a ruler, but as a myth we live inside of. A myth we can shape, a myth we can awaken from, because the psyche, in its depth and mystery, may already be living outside of time, waiting only for us to remember. The deeper we go into the structure of reality, the more it unravels. Beneath the comfortable predictability of everyday life, apples falling from trees, oceans pulled by moons, hearts ticking in rhythm, there is a realm that defies every rule we thought we understood. Quantum mechanics, born out of humanity's attempt to grasp the microscopic world, did more than revolutionize physics. It fractured our understanding of time. In the quantum realm, particles do not follow a single, defined path. They exist in probabilities, in superpositions, in entangled relationships that defy location. Sequence, and sometimes even causality itself. Time, once a solid pillar of understanding, dissolves into mist. Consider the double-slit experiment, a cornerstone of quantum theory. A single particle, say an electron, is fired at a barrier with two slits. On the other side, a detection screen records where it lands. But here's the paradox. If we observe the electron during its journey, it behaves like a particle, choosing a definite path through one slit. But if we don't observe it, it acts like a wave, going through both slits simultaneously, creating an interference pattern as if it were in multiple places at once. The act of observing collapses its state into a fixed reality. But until that observation, the particle's future and its past remain undefined. Time, in this scenario, isn't linear. It's not even real in the classical sense. It is created at the moment of observation. This discovery shatters our intuitive sense of before and after. In the quantum realm, causality breaks down. Events don't unfold in a neat line. They bleed into each other, retroactively influenced by choices not yet made. In delayed choice experiments, the decision to measure a particle can affect its past behavior. That is, a decision made now can appear to rewrite what already occurred. If that sounds impossible, it's because we are still trapped in the illusion of linear time. But at the quantum level, nature does not seem to share our obsession with. Sequence, the phenomenon of quantum entanglement, adds another dimension to this temporal disintegration. When two particles become entangled, their properties are linked instantaneously, regardless of the distance between them. Change the state of one, and the other changes too, faster than light could travel. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance, because it undermines the very fabric of space and time. If two particles, separated by galaxies, can influence each other without any signal passing between them, what does that say about time as a mediator of events? It suggests that at some level, the universe is unified beyond space and beyond time, that all things are connected in a timeless field of pure potential. This field, invisible, immeasurable, yet undeniable, calls into question the nature of reality itself. The physicist John Wheeler once proposed that the universe might be a participatory one, that reality does not fully exist until it is observed. We, as conscious beings, might not be passive spectators, but co-creators of time and space. The Big Bang, from this view, wasn't just the start of the universe. It was the beginning of observation, of separation, of the illusion of before and after. Every act of perception may be a microcosmic reenactment of that moment, the birth of time through the eye of the observer. These ideas would seem absurd if they were not supported by experiment after experiment. But science, despite its equations and evidence, does not protect us from existential vertigo, because to embrace what quantum mechanics suggests about time is to admit that our entire worldview is built on an illusion. The past may not be fixed, the future may not be open, and the present may not even exist as we think it does. Not a razor's edge between what was and what will be, but a kind of holographic interference pattern, a meeting point of probabilities, collapsing into experience. And so, physics becomes mysticism. Not because it drifts into fantasy, but because it circles back to truths that ancient traditions have whispered for millennia. That time is not real. That reality is not solid. That consciousness is not just a byproduct of the brain, but a participant in the construction of the universe. In Hindu philosophy, the idea of Maya describes the world as illusion, a cosmic dream. In Buddhism, The concept of emptiness dissolves time and identity alike. And in quantum physics, we find mathematical versions of the same unsettling realization. The world is far stranger than it appears, and time is only a shadow of something deeper. The implications of this are not only theoretical, they bleed into the human experience in subtle but powerful ways. Trauma, déjà vu, intuition. These might not just be psychological phenomena, but glimpses into the non-linearity of existence. Moments of insight that pierce the illusion of sequence. If time is not fixed, then healing does not have to follow a timeline. Forgiveness does not need years. Awakening can happen in an instant, and perhaps somewhere in the deepest layer of being. We already exist in every moment, spread across the past and future like stardust, remembering itself. The question is no longer can we travel through time, but are we ever outside of it? Or, better yet, does time even exist without us? Because in the quantum mirror, the observer is not separate from the observed. Time does not unfold on its own. It emerges through our attention, our choices, our awareness. And if we are truly participants in this unfolding, then perhaps we are not traveling through time at all. Perhaps we are creating it, moment by moment, breath by breath, from the silence of the void. We live as though time is our master. Every second counts. Every deadline looms. Every year adds a wrinkle, a regret, a number to the story we tell ourselves about who we are and how far we've come. But beneath this ritualized rhythm, the clocks, the calendars, the aging skin, there lingers an eerie question. What if time isn't real in the way we believe it is? What if we are not moving forward through life, but standing still in a field of infinite possibilities, only perceiving motion because of the way consciousness frames the world? What if time is not a prison, but a trance, a psychological illusion that shapes everything we feel, think, and fear? Our entire civilization is built on the scaffolding of time. We are taught to measure our worth by what we've achieved, when we achieved it, and how long it took. We are taught that growth is linear. Childhood leads to adulthood, ignorance to knowledge, brokenness to healing. But life rarely follows that script. Some wounds linger for decades, while others vanish in an instant. Some people are wise at 20, others are lost at 70. The heart does not obey the clock, neither does the mind, and maybe neither does the universe. There's a strange comfort in the linear narrative, a beginning, a middle, an end. It helps us make sense of pain, celebrate milestones, organize chaos. But this narrative is also a cage. It convinces us that the past cannot be changed, that the future must be earned, that the present is just a fleeting breath between what was and what will be. In truth, the present is all there is. The past is memory. The future is imagination. Both exist only in the mind, shaped, distorted, reinvented moment by moment. You do not remember the past as it was. You remember it as you are now, and your future is not waiting for you. It is being authored by your current state of being. This is not just spiritual poetry. It is psychological fact. Studies in neuroscience have shown that memory is not static. Every time we recall an event, we alter it. We rewrite the past with the ink of the present. Similarly, the brain's default mode network, active when we daydream, reflect, or imagine, shows that we constantly simulate possible futures, most of which will never come to pass. We live in imagined timelines, and we suffer for them. Anxiety, regret, nostalgia, longing. These are symptoms of a mind lost in the illusion of time. a mind that has forgotten how to simply be. But if time is a construct, then it can also be deconstructed. Meditation, psychedelics, flow states, trauma therapy, all reveal something astonishing. When consciousness shifts, so does time. Minutes stretch into eternities. Hours vanish in seconds. Some report reliving entire lifetimes in a single breath. Others return from silence with the realization that there was never a clock ticking, only awareness breathing in and out of form. These experiences are not hallucinations. They are revelations. They suggest that time is a lens, not a law, and the lens can be changed. The mystics have always known this. In many traditions, enlightenment is not a future achievement, but a recognition of the timeless, an awakening from the dream of sequence. The Sufis speak of timeless time, the Buddhists of no self, the Advaita Vedantins of non-duality. All point to the same insight. The present is not a moment in time, it is the absence of time. When you are truly present, time disappears. There is no past to mourn, no future to chase, just the raw aliveness of being. And in that aliveness, something shifts. You stop chasing meaning and start becoming it. And yet, we resist. Because to let go of time is to let go of identity. If there is no past, who are we? If the future is not real, what are we working toward? These questions strip the ego of its scaffolding. But maybe that's the point. Maybe what we call a crisis, a breakdown, a dark night of the soul, is not a failure of the self, but the collapse of time itself, a rupture in the illusion, a chance to see what lies beyond the narrative. And beyond that narrative, we may find not emptiness, but freedom. This freedom is not about doing whatever you want, whenever you want. It's deeper. It's the freedom to stop performing for the timeline, to stop proving your worth through speed, age, milestones, productivity. It is the freedom to be present without apology, to feel everything, joy, sorrow, boredom, awe, without asking how long it will last or where it fits on the timeline of success. It is the freedom to realize that you were never late. You were never early. You were always exactly where you were meant to be, here. Maybe time was never meant to be mastered, measured, or feared. Maybe it was meant to be transcended, not by machines or wormholes, but by awareness, by seeing through the illusion of sequence and touching the eternal that lives beneath it. And maybe, in that stillness, you'll realize something quietly revolutionary, that there is nothing to reach for, because nothing has ever been lost. There is no road ahead or behind. There is only the now, and you are already home.